Hi, Dad. I can't hear you. I can see you. I can't hear you yet. It says it's connecting. So, okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
good.
How are you doing?
Uh, I just woke up.
Yeah, no, you're
I was
good. You took a nap. We
I
were talking
I
about
take
taking, yeah, go ahead.
I take quite a lot of naps. Um, I started my physical therapy
Yes.
outpatient this week, and I had a session yesterday. It's a nice place. I enjoy it,
Yes.
but it's tough. I mean, they really work.
Sure.
So
Sure.
I tend to be, and it I certainly can feel it afterwards. So
Sure.
I'm just kind of adjusting to that. But
But no, but
oh,
also no excuses. I mean, you mentioned taking more naps, obviously, since your procedure. But um, we're a big nap family anyway. I mean, we take naps, and we're not. I'm not ashamed of it. I used to, when I worked downtown, there was a section of the cafeteria in the building I worked for naps, and I loved that it was all
okay,
people, the childcare workers like myself, the cafeteria workers themselves who had finished their shift, doctors maybe, or other kinds of insurance business people. You just laid down and no one, and I to this day I think naps are great. I took a nap yesterday, so
good.
yeah, no, I am pro nap. Where
Hi,
no nap shaming here.
how are you doing?
I'm
How's your
okay. I'm okay. I had a week off, which was nice. I mostly did nothing, hung out with the dogs, and slept. Though now I'm anxious to go. Now I'm anxious for going back because of the work that piles up when you've been
right?
away for a moment. That'll be
Yeah.
fine. I still have a couple of days. I'm gonna enjoy those couple of days, and then yeah, just hit the ground running for work.
Oh, that's good. That's
How
good.
about you? Are you been working remotely or doing
Yeah,
anything?
I have. I mean, things haven't stopped, and we are. I seem to be more or less the front person for the art fair that we're doing in Seoul in Korea
Yes.
at the beginning. Well, it's kind of the Labor Day. It's the Labor Day weekend,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
so I did accomplish a all staff involved Zoom meeting, which was I think a first for
sure,
the Aquavella Gallery in
sure.
that we had two Aquavellas in attendance. They are the least likely to
For sure,
attend,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, but the most necessary, in fact.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah,
so
for sure.
so I was very pleased that they did, and so that has some follow up. I've accomplished quite a lot. Other stuff.
How many people is that? I don't know how many.
Well, actually, and this was because of the people involved. There were only one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. There were seven of us,
Yeah,
and an eighth person that who was a lady that worked with me at what was a Christie's, a Korean lady who was at Christie's, who's now freelance, and I've hired her to help us because none of us are Korean, so she speaks Korean and she knows the ropes and she's helping us. She's going to help us. So yeah, but the whole, it's interesting. I think actually that the whole stuff is something like it's about 17 people.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I'm not sure if that includes the two most essential, who are the cleaning ladies
Yes,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm serious,
No, oh
who
no, oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
come in every day, you know. Um, uh, there's some dog barking in the background because Victoria's coming back from a shopping trip.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
uh, we've had construction going on with the pool house almost
Right.
finished. We have a neighbor who's been complaining that we've been dealing with, trying not to get too uh, aggressive with,
Sure.
trying to be polite and
Yes.
explain to him that we're in fact allowed to do certain work according to
Yeah.
the code, that we're actually doing less for his sake than we
Sure.
could be doing,
Yeah, yeah.
which of course I understand doesn't help him. And he complained it was because his family was going to come from the UK for the weekend with his 78-year-old father, as if I would be impressed by the fact that his 78-year-old father was coming from the UK. But I kept my mouth shut on that one. So
Oh,
anyway, it's okay. It's fine.
you should have said, "I'll take him. I can take him. Let's go. I'll take
I
him."
could, yeah, exactly. Just bring him over. I'll sort him out. Following the news a little bit.
Yeah.
Surprised. Well, actually, strangely, I'm not surprised by the Japanese assassination.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you go back 100 years, there's actually there's a tradition of assassinations, but that's
Yes.
how they generally used to take care. Between Korea and China and Japan, there were a lot of assassinations.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, yes. Yeah, yeah.
In fact, strangely, through a friend of mine who deals in Japanese and Korean art, he told me he's English actually, but he hired a young woman to help him who was Korean as an intern, and they were doing some research on a politician, and it turned out that this intern's great-grandfather had assassinated, who was Japanese,
Yes.
had
Hi.
assassinated.
Hey, talking to the bionic man there.
Yeah. Special guest star.
Yeah.
No. Okay. Grandfather
So
who.
it turned out that she had, her great-grandfather, who was Korean, had assassinated this high Japanese official, right?
Sure.
And it was a big deal. Historically, it was a very big deal.
Sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah.
because her great-grandfather was himself a high official, and the person he had assassinated had insulted his family, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was treated very
Yeah.
deferentially,
Yeah. Yeah.
and he was allowed to wear his ceremonial robes when they executed him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So this
Yes. No. It's historical, and it's well, and there's ritual, and there's. I mean.
there's rich. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know about this case.
No.
I don't,
Right. But it's the precedent, just culturally, just the.
it's
Yeah.
culturally, yes,
Yeah.
it's culturally a norm, or was a norm, at
Yes.
least, I suppose. So,
So okay, and the homemade Abe homemade gun, people. Do you know how the right wing are spinning that? They're
no,
saying,
I don't know.
well,
They're saying that it doesn't matter if you take away people's guns, they'll make
they're
them.
saying it's proof that gun control doesn't work. Japan has had 2 gun deaths this year. We had the same amount that day. So I mean, to make I mean, they just trade and peddle in false equivalency. Like anything that you can make a soundbite out of doesn't
Yes.
have to be a logical reference. You don't. I mean, a logical inference. You don't have to convince any. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be logical.
no, you just have to be able to say it out loud. 2,700 ads currently running reference in some way or another great replacement theory. Some of them reference immigrants, many of them use the term invasion. I mean, this is after, again, the Buffalo shooter referenced this theory, many of them reference critical race theory, many of them, but like this, they're spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and this is every day, and this is, I mean, this is what's on the airwaves. It's legal. It's First Amendment. I'm not going to say it's not legal. It's not, but it's immoral.
But it
It's
becomes a
irresponsible.
belief system.
Well, yeah.
It becomes a belief system.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and the Christian right is becoming very political too.
Well,
I
they
read
see they
something.
have their power in that. I mean, they have been
Yeah,
emboldened and empowered.
yeah, and some of these people now seeking election are very they're unabashedly saying that this should be a Christian country, that this should be church, that's false. That the church should run the country. The
Yeah,
Christian
no,
church
they're
should run
saying
the
it
country.
openly, and I mean, and
You froze a bit there, Bobby. There.
yeah, no, yeah, you froze too for a second. Can you hear me now?
Your image is frozen. I can hear you.
Okay,
There you
yeah, I
are.
don't know
Yeah.
what's going. It might just be yeah. No, yeah, they're absolutely emboldened to say that they no longer believe in separation of church and state, and then that there's a national Bring Your Bible to School Day. There's a I mean, there are all these movements and pushes, but it's also yeah, I mean, it's the Christian right, and then I mean, to me, I don't know what's scarier, whether people like Marjorie Taylor Greene can get reelected, or whether even it doesn't matter because you only have to spend 2 years, but she will get reelected because she makes too much money for them. I mean it doesn't matter how stupid what she says. It should be embarrassing. It doesn't matter how bottom of the barrel she scraped. They already learned. It doesn't. We can distance ourselves from that via. They learned from Trump. We don't and still rake in the dollars and still rake in the dollar. And it's, I mean, it's, oh, and then Trump said just the other day that, he's still not saying, he's still not saying he's going to run, but if he were to run again, first of all, he belongs in jail, but if he were to run again, he would take over democratic cities this time. So, I mean, this is full on authoritarianism. It's not just, this is religious fascism and authoritarian. I know, I feel like I've been saying this for years, but I sounded like an extremist, but now, hopefully I don't anymore. Hopefully, I mean, if people realize like how close this is, how real this is.
Well, between that movement, gerrymandering, voting,
Yep.
Republican states managing to reduce voting rights, and a Supreme Court that is totally politicized.
Yeah, which took a very
a minority, a wingnut minority could end up running the country.
Yeah, and once, and again, this is a very specific minority who has demonstrated their unwillingness to give up power once they've achieved it, and their willingness to go to or employ any means to do so. I mean, it's really, I mean, it's, I mean,
so do they have the numbers? Well, they don't have to have the numbers because they'll say if they lose, it's been stolen.
Yeah, if they lose, it's stolen. If they win, it's. I mean, the kind of nonsense where they won, state party, they won governor all the way down the ticket except president, and they want to only disqualify president, and they have logical arguments for why that would make sense to only and how, but. Well, they're not logical, but they have their arguments. The Supreme Court took a really interesting position on the midterms, which is they didn't rule whether or not in all these districts like Georgia the maps are constitutional, but they refused to rule essentially until next year at the earliest, which means after the midterms. They just said we're not going to rule on it. So and then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if by then with Ketanji Brown Jackson, they'd rule that the maps are out of place. The midterms have already happened. The maps were used, and that's what determines the next. I mean, again, it's use any means and not. Okay, I want to talk about this because I was on the flip as much as I'm terrified of right-wing fascism, on the flip end, I do this democracy happy hour. It's an online once a week thing. Pretty moderate people. I was actually surprised by how many people were sort of not not wishy-washy as far as whether or not they were pro-choice, but wishy-washy around. These are older people too. These are, I mean, older than myself, but wishy-washy around whether this was our fight or whether, like, do we want to take them on? I'm like, we kind of need to. This is everything. This is, I mean, this is interracial marriage. This is, So again, I'm the radical in the room, as I often am. But on the flip side, again, I'm the radical in the room. But at some point, someone was talking about we really need to start looking at these Republican tactics, basically to mimic them. And I was like, I hear what you're saying. I think we need to be realistic about the Republican tactics. I don't think we need to be like, rose-colored. We need to be realistic and look at them and analyze them and see what they're doing and call them out. But I don't think it should be a race to the bottom. And this is something you and I have talked about. Like, it can't be a race to the bottom. Someone has to be, well, it doesn't have to be either of these two parties again, because I don't believe in a two-party system either. But a party of integrity, someone has to be. And if you're just mimicking their tactics because they work or because, well, they do it, so we should do it too because it's the only way we can regain power, then it's just the slippery slope to, I mean, then it's authoritarianism either way. And I felt like, I said this as gently as I could. I said this as non-combatively as I could. And the response was, well, what should we do instead? And I was like, okay, I'm not saying I have the answers. I'm just saying the right thing, whatever the right thing is, not do the wrong thing just because it's what's being done now. And I couldn't believe that this was like a discussion that a group of adults were having.
Yeah, and they should know also that machine politics and gerrymandering were pretty much a Democratic Party invention in the 19th century,
Sure.
where Boston and New York and places
Sure.
like that.
Yeah, sure,
I mean, the Democratic Party has been at the bottom in a way of corruption and
yes.
that kind of thing on a civic level. I don't know,
Sure.
on a national level, but certainly on a local level, and we have to rise above that. Surely the answer is to get out the vote, even if districts are gerrymandered. We need to get white suburban women who are even conservative in terms of economics or whatever,
Sure.
who are concerned about, who are pro-choice.
Yes. Yeah.
And we have to get the underserved to believe that they will be served if they vote, whatever their caste or class is, and have to help them and put money or whatever it is into getting people to believe that their vote counts.
Yes.
And
yes.
Because if it's overwhelming, I mean, they can still challenge it, but look, they challenged the last time, and frankly, Joe Biden is president. So if they mount a huge effort the next time and lose, then I don't see them mounting an even bigger effort beyond that. I don't know. Maybe I'm too optimistic. I don't know.
I think that there are elements, and again, I like to believe they are the most extreme, who are not going to give up no matter what, because this isn't even about what they're claiming. And
I mean, if they cannot succeed ultimately with totalitarianism unless they have the police and the army, unless they have the military.
So here's the thing. Success is a perspective. No, they didn't succeed in installing Trump as president, but they succeeded in. I think now 7 out of 10 Republicans question the election. They succeeded in. Well, again, deep pockets. They spent millions of dollars, but they've also raised millions of dollars on this stop the steal lie. They've sold merchandise on it. They've built careers of politicians on it. They've created playbooks that they will continue to use in the future in some form or another, whether they're successful or not. The point isn't whether or not a state recertifies their things, but it's to make them spend millions of taxpayer dollars recounting machines, and then if you can install your own people and make, and if you know, whatever you can do, just keep trying and succeed here, succeed there, succeed somewhere. All you need to do is succeed in Arizona and Pennsylvania, and you probably stole the national. I mean, it's I know I sound like an extremist, and I feel like an extremist every time I, but
Well, I don't think you're an extremist. I mean, this is what's happening. I mean,
but
it's
okay,
not the future.
here's a real world example of the race to the bottom. Labor unionization used to be an enormous, powerful agent in this country, alongside the government and corporations themselves, was a huge driver of policy
Yeah.
making in our country. It lost all credibility because it became corrupt. It became, I mean, that's the shortest version. That's not everything that happened to labor. Obviously, big business was always against it and used all its money and power against it from the beginning. And especially in the 70s and 80s, labor got very corrupt, and that's when it got easier to shut them out. Now labor is coming back. You know, Starbucks are unionizing, and Amazon warehouses slowly, but that's ground up. That's a whole new generation. That's not that.
Well, also the union system was used. It was used politically and socially to maintain the power for a certain class and type of citizen. I mean, there were a lot of unions that kept
Yes.
that were not democratic, in the sense that they wanted to sustain jobs from father to son.
For sure. No, police union comes to mind immediately. And people, you know, I mean,
Yeah,
obviously within, yes.
But the more unions that are formed now, the more unions that are really truly diverse and in a number of very diverse industries.
Yes.
That's very positive, because I do think those are going to be politically, they're not going to be corrupt politically. I don't know. I mean,
Right. I mean, yeah, to me, like the gig economy, the app, all the app services, and I try to use them as minimally as possible. I don't, if I have food delivery, it's from a place that employs their own delivery people as much as I can. But I do take Lyft from time to time, because I'm not going to drive drunk, and I'm not public transportation. It doesn't run 24 hours in my city. So if I go to a show, I'll get stranded somewhere. So I do take Lyft, and then I try and tip as well as I can, because it claims that 100% of the tip goes to the driver, but they always find a way to put in their fees, or they always find their profit. So I don't even believe that. Yeah, no, I don't know, but yeah, no, and I guess I just feel guilty. But again, I mean, we all do, whether it's shopping Amazon or what, some service or whatever. None of fast fashion. The convenience of modern life means a certain amount of guilt. You make the best choices you can. I don't even know where I'm going with any of this. Stop me anytime and whatever.
Well, I don't think I think one can be a conscientious consumer, but consumer choices are not going to change the way things happen.
I'm a both and on that. Like I think what quote unquote checkbook activism. I mean, I think it's limited, but I do think corporations respond when people. I think boycotts. I think, and that this goes again for the right or the left. I think I think it can have. In the short term, though, typically, so for instance, a company like Toyota, they were completely called out for supporting all the quote unquote sedition caucus, all the Congress people who voted against the January 6th panel that's actually going on right now, who voted against any kind of investigation, who they were called out. They made a pledge to stop donating, and within 6 months, they were donating to all of them again, because they just can't help themselves, and they hope it'll quietly go away. So again, you have to keep the pressure on. Everyone who's ever stopped, sponsoring Tucker Carlson on Fox News will quietly go back if you don't keep it up. But then, to me, you can't. I don't know. Then again, this goes for the right and the left. And I think a lot, the same company that makes this flag, this pride flag, also makes all those patriot hate flags, because they'll make a flag for anyone. They literally advertise, we will custom make any flag for anyone. They'll make Hitler flags. They don't care. And so do I support them, or do I not? I mean, it's like, how do you, I mean, what I want to do is buy all their pride flags and then let all the right wingers know, hey, you know they're selling gay pride stuff too. Maybe get them to boycott the company. Then they'll have to be a pride company.
Yeah, that's a good
I
idea.
don't know. I don't, but I mean, I'm being, just see, I
Yeah,
don't, but I think companies, I don't think, I think we're past the era where companies can just give money to both sides and be like, well, we're neutral. I don't think you can't,
that's not being neutral.
that's not being neutral. I mean, yeah,
No,
if you're taking money from the NRA, but we also give money to family memorial. I mean, that's meaningless. That's completely meaningless. I mean, you have to take a stand, and then consumers are going to decide where you stand. And I don't want to shop at Chick-fil-A because they won't let their employees have full reproductive benefits, and that was long before Roe versus Wade. They had policies that I don't agree with, so I'm not going to shop there. I'm also
then
vegan, but
do we believe the blatant advertising about how many socks we give away or how much what we do for
ooh, this is
the
a whole
world?
topic. Okay, so the famous Tom's Shoes is sort of the innovator of that. We give one pair for one, and they were and almost every brand. And if you ever watch Shark Tank, which I don't anymore, but if you ever watch Shark Tank, they always talk about, like, especially among millennials, like, you have to have some kind of give back or some kind of. And so I'm all for companies being green. I'm all for companies giving back, but especially those, we give away a specific item that we make. So first of all, usually tax write-offs. Second of all, oftentimes they flood the markets where it's manufactured, where the employees somehow, they don't want more of that product. They don't need, in Ecuador where they make Tom's shoes, they want the type of, the shoes that they wear, which are sandals, which are not Tom's shoes. They don't need tons of, so the shoes actually end up just becoming an economic blight. Like,
And
I mean,
they're
an environment.
seconds. They're seconds anyway. I
And
mean,
they're seconds anyway. Yeah, no, they don't go in the hands of anyone who actually wants them. They don't actually benefit communities. Yeah, no, there's actually been studies and research into how it actually, some of these, depending on the way the model is set up, can actually cause harm rather than, yeah, they're not great. But I think companies doing things that give back, or companies, I think if it's added incentive, I think people need to understand, if you want to donate to cancer research, donate to cancer research. Don't buy the brand of hard seltzer that is promising to donate to cancer research. You know what I'm saying? Like, buy the brand
yeah,
that's, buy whatever, buy the brand that's local, buy the brand that supports your community,
yeah.
buy the brand that's in Black or Indigenous, gay, women owned. There are lots of ways to choose how you buy things, and whether or not they donate to X, Y, or Z, that's usually not the most meaningful. But I think as a kind of, how do we always get you? This is supposed to be your show. You always get me talking. You always interview me.
Well, no, it's your show. It's your show. I'm your
I don't know.
guest.
But no, I think, yeah, it's both a scam. It depends on the company, and sometimes, I mean, some companies are like, they're mission driven, and they're really, the selling things comes second, or the service comes second to trying to create jobs. They're trying to, and I really,
Yeah. No. I think I believe that. I don't think they're all, but the ones that I see, kind of, I have I suppose, an ear for them, or for the television ads. Some of them ring really hollow. So
Yeah, okay. Well, no, just as an example, Bombas is a brand of socks and underwear and things, and they're okay. The one thing that the claim that they make in their commercials is true, is that underwear, socks, and t-shirts are the most requested things by homeless people. So that's true. Whether I can prove that not all their product ends up in the hands of homeless people, because they go through, well, I'm not going to name the organization, but they donate a lot of their things to an organization. Some of those things go to the homeless. Some of those things go to youth. The socks actually end up in those, like, back to school kits that are, like, August is the time when those start to go. But then some of those end up just, like, back in thrift stores, like, so, they're not, like, it's at pennies on the dollar. And again, everyone at every level is taking a tax write-off. So I don't want to say, well, yeah, I don't know. I've just seen the pipeline of where it doesn't necessarily end up in the hands of
Right.
someone.
It's not what it seems. Or
Yeah.
so what is the sweatshirt you're wearing?
Oh,
Just
this is a guy. Okay, so this is in Oklahoma. He is still his okay. This shirt was made when people were trying. He was on death row. At the last minute, Governor Stitt, who is a Trump DeSantis clone, did actually commute his sentence, which shows again the proof that even with like a heartless right wing, if you there's enough massive pressure, and so even but he waited like down to the last like the day before, literally, people were like protesting outside the governor's
yeah,
mansion,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he finally did commute the sentence. But again, okay, this gentleman, his name is Julius. He reported a crime, and the police decided to charge him with a crime. He had no connection to the victim whatsoever. He's literally stumbled upon a body, and they were like, closest black guy here.
Yeah.
It's DNA evidence has since been introduced that someone else did. He's innocent, but because of whatever technicalities, because he took a plea and pleas can't be undone or whatever. Well, at least he didn't get executed, but he's still on death row. So people are still, and don't want to take the pressure off the governor just because he commuted the sentence. He waited till the last moment. He kept that family strung along. He kept the, like he, I mean,
That's cruel. I mean,
yeah.
that is
So he doesn't
cruel.
get bonus points or brownie points, and I wear that to remind people of that as well. If anyone's like, but his sentence was commuted, and I'm like, not good enough. Not even new
No,
trial. Let's
no.
until he has a new trial. So yeah. Anyway, that's justice for Julius. Um, okay, Christie's was mentioned on Jeopardy this week. The I can't remember the category, but the clue was Sotheby's competitor, so not the most creative clue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
The,
okay. I would say that's a sad day for Phillips then. Who
but I think it was either the $800 or $1,000 question. That's like the high. I'm like, is that really? I mean, well, again, I grew
Yeah,
up in this.
it is.
Okay, all right. That's not common.
I mean, in most households, that's, especially when the TV shows make up similar sounding
Oh,
names,
yes.
auction houses.
Yes.
So,
And then they have the auctioneers actually sounding like cattle rustler auctioneers
yes,
auctioning
yes,
off
I
like
like that. I
million
like
dollar
that.
painting. And can I get a and I got
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The sillier the better, I think. Actually,
for sure. Yeah.
yeah. I like to do a compendium of movie clips of
Oh,
auction scenes with
yeah.
mysterious mafiosos and socialites and people and how they
Oh,
bid.
okay. This was one of the most interesting, and I don't know. Yeah, no. And when I think about, okay, so do you remember? And I'll let you tell it if you can remember it. You were alerted by phone. This is like sort of how scams were. You were alerted by phone that a big client was coming in, and they were bringing a suitcase full of money, and then it was
Okay,
determined it wasn't possible because.
so this is the story.
Yeah.
Okay, the story, and it's many years ago.
Yeah.
There was a particularly expensive painting coming up for sale. And in order to bid on something like that, clients have to register. In other words,
Right.
they can't bid. And I got a call, or a call was received on my behalf from a woman, American woman, who said that she gave the details, personal details that seemed to check out. She said she wanted to bid on on this particular painting, and this was several weeks before the sale, right? And that sounds, that sounds fine. So normally, what the auction house would do would be to politely tell her that we will be in touch with your bank because we need to know that you have the funds to cover this purchase, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And nobody objects to that, right? So she said, well, in fact, I'm going to pay for it. If I buy it, I'm going to pay for it in cash.
Right.
And the cash is going to be brought to you by a Korean gentleman in a suitcase.
Right.
Right. So obviously, lots of bells start ringing. Okay. But I can't say to her, that sounds nuts.
Right.
And hang
Right.
up
Right.
the
Yeah.
phone, okay.
Yeah. Because you never know. I mean, yeah.
You never know. All right. So, but I was also curious because people often have said to me, does anybody pay cash for
Sure.
expensive paintings? And in fact, in my long history, the answer is no. But in this case, I at least on the face of it, I took her query seriously. So I went to my colleagues at the auction house, the people in the bookkeeping and the legal department, and I said, how would we handle it if this client does in fact want to pay in cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, they took a while to get back to me, a couple of days, and they said, well, we could handle this. What the client would have to do, let's say the painting is in the $20 million range, right? They'd have to produce the cash at least 2 weeks before the sale.
Mm-hmm.
The cash would have to be put into a kind of a bonded situation, and it would have to go to the Treasury Department in Washington.
Sure.
And the Treasury Department needed 2 weeks for that amount to examine the cash.
No, sure. Yeah.
And to ascertain that it was, I suppose, not powdered with cocaine or stolen or whatever.
Well, most money is powdered with cocaine, but no, yeah.
No. So anyway, so I relayed this. I don't actually remember the woman speaking with her directly, but anyway, I relayed this back. It turned out that she was a patient in a mental facility. And this was a bit of a fantasy. It was something that she was pursuing as a I think she probably was from a fairly well-to-do background, so she knew enough.
Yeah. For some reason I thought it was like a scam or like a
no, it wasn't. The scam that is still going on is that people who have no connection with a particularly valuable work of art may claim to have it for sale.
Yeah.
And usually they choose one that has been out of sight for many years.
Sure.
So they say, well, this famous painting by Picasso or Van Gogh, I can get it for you.
Yeah.
And they name a price which is probably appropriate.
Sure.
And then they say, but if you want to see it, it's in a warehouse in Switzerland.
Right.
And we want a letter of credit. We want you to write a letter saying that you have the money to buy this, right?
Sure.
In other words, they are in fact fishing
for
a document.
Yeah.
Whether it's from a dealer, a private person, a banker, whatever. There is no paint. They don't have it for sale.
No, of course.
You know, what they want, and I've never quite understood how it could be used, but apparently there is some ways in the financial industry where such a letter of credit, well, not a letter of credit, but just a letter giving a willingness to spend that amount of money can be used
because then you go to investors and say, look, I have their, or you go to someone else and
Yeah,
say,
you,
hey,
you
I mean,
raise
I can,
money on the basis of, you
yeah,
raise
you can,
2 years
yeah,
ago.
probably. I think we have less than a minute. I love you,
Okay.
Dad.
I love you, Bob. Take care.
Okay.
Have a great week.
You too.
Okay.
Okay.